So here we are with another season of anime with several new and several returning anime for our viewing this season. But we're here to talk today about some recommendations. So, like last time, we're only going to be talking about new anime. No returning series, no second seasons, no continuous what's it, who's it, and everything else being fair game. So basically, any genre, any type of art, any visual style, as long as I find it personally enjoying, I can recommend it. And somewhat curious about the series as well. So without further ado, let's start this recommendation list off yet again. So let's start this off with Drifters, a series created by the same person behind Hellsing. The basic plot follows Shimazu Toyahisa, a Japanese samurai who dies in battle, finding himself in a new world. There he meets Nasu Sekiyata Yoichi and Oda Nobunaga. Forgive me for the pronunciation of some of these, I do not speak Japanese. As the three of them become involved in the war between humans and elves. If you haven't guessed it, the series involves various historical figures known for their proficiency in war, basically continuing to do what they do in another world. Just from that premise alone, I love this series, with the promises of battles between different groups of historical figures, forming their own alliances, as well as third-party groups seeking out, basically, ways to prevent the end of the world, which is oncoming somehow. It looks like it's going to have a gigantic epic throwdown, which is really great. It's pretty much the premier action series for this season. Of course, these first few episodes being out, the action scenes are amazing, and just from what you'd expect for something that was done by the guy that did Hellsing, and I think animated by the same studio, there was lots of blood and gore. And of course, things look like they're going to be even more gory and bloody as things goes on, and of course, Nobunaga is being all like Nobunaga, which is always a plus in my book. So, Drifters comes highly recommended for this season. I've been a fan of Durarara for a while now. I'm also a fan of Steins Gate and to a lesser degree Chaos Head. Robotics, no, is a disappointment to me. But I've been looking for a series that sort of involves both of the parties, for lack of a better term. And I think I found that with this new series, Occult 9. From the title design alone, you can tell that Occult 9 is basically by the same studio that gave us things like, again, Steins Gate and Chaos Head, and again, unfortunately, Robotics Note. But it takes its own different approach. The basic plot is a bit hard to wrap a summary around, mainly because it's a gigantic mystery series. The various main characters are all linked to the, forgive pronunciation, Choju Kagaku Kirikiri Barasa, an online blog run by our main character, Yuta Gamen, who's out to basically live the internet dream of getting money from a blog while doing almost absolutely no work at all. Live the dream, buddy. Along the way, he and various other individuals get wrapped up in a supernatural mystery that's really a gigantic confusion. It's a gigantic point of confusion. Because we're so early in the series, it's hard to tell exactly where everything's going to be headed, as well as how eventually all the pieces will be connected. But, at the very least, it's a very interesting series with its own unique style, or at least its own unique way of doing things. Again, I get a touch of Durarara here, and of course I can tell from some of the type of characters that show up in this, it has a strong influence of something like Steins Gate and Chaos Head, with at least one side character reminding me of Mayushi. And of course, the main character kind of reminding me of the main character from Steins Gate, albeit a slightly less whiny version of him. So with that said, again, Occult 9 is a pretty good, at least decent, so far, series that I'm keeping my eye on for this season. So we've had a heavy action anime and a crazy mystery anime, so how about we go with a straightforward ridiculous sports anime and Kijo. The basic plot follows Kaminashi Nozomi, a young girl on a quest to become one of the best Kaijo players of all time. If you're curious to know what Kaijo is, it's basically that butt wrestling minigame from DOA, but in this case it's aped up into the typical thing that sports anime always does with various sports. We follow our four misfits as they struggle to make themselves known and stand out as the best in their school and prepare for the actual careers as Kaijo players. I have to admit, it's a very silly fanservice anime, but I just love everything I've seen so far about it. It's a very entertaining series. On top of that, again, it takes everything as seriously as a typical sports anime. And me myself not being exactly a fan of sports anime takes the actual sport part, I can actually enjoy this one because it's so overly ridiculous. So, yeah, Kijo is a ridiculous anime that I just so happen to really love. So, please take a look at it. So, now we're up against a historical anime with Izata the Last Witch. This one is pretty interesting. Taking place in the year 1939, with the nation of Germania invading its neighboring countries and triggering a large-scale European war, World War One. A year later, the small nation of Estalt is invaded by Germania, leaving its princess to try and find a solution. Her best bet comes from her childhood friend Izata, who's the titular last witch. With her magical abilities able to turn the tide of the war and great hope for the small nation. It's pretty interesting anime so far. I have to admit to being a fan of historical time period settings, as well as something like this where you mix two different genres. In this case, magical girl stuff and military stuff. On top of that, so far we've had plenty of good battle scenes, as well as the whole desperate last stand thing that they always do in war series when you focus on the underdogs. Again, the animation is pretty beautiful. Whenever Izata uses her magic, there's this kind of really golden effect that happens whatever objects he's lifting. And it's interesting to see how she uses her various magic. It appears as very location based. Like she'll only use it when she's in a very specific spot here or there. And again, the characters that we've had so far in the series are pretty interesting, with the princess herself being a standout character as a royal who does something, and Izata basically trying to be her best that she can be and live her own way in life. And the Germanians are just sticks, which you kind of expect their basically German paralogs to be whenever you focus on any of the world wars. So yeah, again, comes highly recommended. Next up, we have a cutesy magical girl series. That turns out to be not so cutesy. We've been having series like this ever since Monica Magica took off as a big hit, and generally they're a mixed bag, honestly. And this one, Magical Girl Rising Project, it can go either or so far. Anyway, the basic plot follows a group of magical girls who have all been chosen thanks to a mobile phone game that gives 1 in tens of thousands the chance of being a real magical girl. However, after the 16th magical girl, our main character, is chosen by the admins, they drop a massive bomb on the group, basically saying that they've miscalculated and that they have to have the drop and they have to have the number of magical girls in the city. Basically because their mana is running low, essentially. But that's the excuse they give. However, it's not just losing your powers that you have to worry about, because as shown in one episode, I won't give away which one, once you lose your powers, you die. So it's a contest to see who gets to live on and who gets to keep their powers to continue as magical girls. So what do they have to do to keep up? Well, they have to gain magical candies, which are basically the points that you get for doing good deeds. So they have to do good deeds, get points, and of course avoid dying. And as of course they learn the fates of what happens to those who die as magical girls, the competition gets deadlier and deadlier as stuff goes on. Honestly, for me, a magical girl series, especially one of this nature, just has to have two things. One, a pretty decent main character, and two, cute magical girl designs. And this series has both of them so far. The main character is a pretty heartfelt girl who wants to do her best to prove herself as a magical girl, and the designs for the various magical girls are all pretty unique and interesting. Each one is very different from one another, so you don't have a team thing like Sailor Moon or Monica Magica, unfortunately, as each magical girl is her own unique entity. Although they can form groups and match up, their designs are wholly unique to their own. So yeah, Magical Girl Rising Project seems like it can be a pretty good series. Not as good as Madoka, because it never gets as good as Madoka, but at least it'll be better than Daybreakers, am I right? So, next up we have the series that gets on the list just for being weird. Flip Flappers. This is a weird one. I honestly have no idea how to explain what's going on in this series, because there's not really much of a concrete plot from what I've seen so far. So let me try my best from what I can tell. It appears that our main characters, Paprika and Kokona, alliteration, get dragged to another world where they go to hunt for some treasure that'll grant wishes, but they can also use the charge set treasure to transform into magical girls and defend themselves from various things. There's honestly no way to better describe what's going on in this series. The main reason I have it on the list is because it looks really good. This is a series that, again, looks really good. Hopefully there'll be a further plot to develop, so it's more just a pretty picture, but honestly, I'm just satisfied by the fact that it looks so good. It's a very beautiful looking anime, and has various scenes where it just shows off how well the art is. So that's pretty much all there is, at least so far, of this series. And if you're just looking for pretty movement, here you go. So let's finish off this list with Kitaro's Yokai Picture Book. Less of a series and more of a collection of shorts. The story follows a young boy named Kitaro, who wants to live his life alone, and so after he gets out of his uncle's house, moves to the woods. There he meets a young yokai girl and finds himself surrounded by yokai. as he tries to live his normal everyday life while being surrounded by these odd monsters. There's not much to say about it, despite the fact it's a pretty funny, enjoyable series, especially if you're like me and like seeing various monsters from various different cultures. So if you happen to be curious of yokai, things of Yokai Watch, or whatever else, this is an interesting one to look at. So, that's it for this season. Let me ask you this: what are you watching for this season? Are you watching anything I'm watching? And it's something that you wanted me to mention that it didn't make the list. Mention it below, and I'll see you all in the next episode. So, till next time,